Australian businesses are operating in an increasingly shrinking world. London to Port Moresby, New York to the Congo. Travellers, expats and local staff can't always rely upon local infrastructure, especially during travel disruptions, medical, security or a natural incident. Employers have a duty of care and an OH&S obligation to ensure their employees are protected, even outside the office, not just whilst travelling, but at project sites around the world. AHI and Dynamiq are the leaders in providing insurance, emergency assistance and support to Australian business.
Accident and Health International is an underwriting agency. We insure people. We have about 20,000 expats insured throughout the world, and we would have in excess of 300,000 travellers, whether they be holiday makers or business people. Our job's to make sure that people are safe.
Dynamiq's an international emergency management firm. What that means is that we support clients in Australia and around the world to prevent, to prepare for, and then respond to an emergency event which could affect their operations, their reputation, and ultimately their people.
Our relationship with Dynamiq is called AHI Assist. Every traveller takes an assistance card with them, which has the telephone number that they should call when they get into trouble, whether there's an emergency, medical or personal safety.
The jewel in our crown is the Emergency Operations Centre. All of our insurance and direct membership clients have access to our Australian 24/7 Emergency Operations Centre.
Every traveller takes an assistance card with them, which has the telephone number that they should call when they get into trouble, whether there's an emergency, medical or personal safety. So the calls come back to Australia, answered by an Australian, where there's nurses and doctors on call.
So I came from a military background. I was a Special Forces Counter-Terrorism Troop Commander in the Australian Army. I then worked in Iraq for a year as a security risk advisor. Our security team are all ex-military, Australian and multinational, working on the tools all day, every day to make sure that the advice and guidance and evacuation support that our clients are getting are absolutely cutting edge. We've got 75,000 providers on our database and an international network that is audited and tested very regularly to make sure that we have the aviation, medical, security and logistics capability to support our clients anywhere in the world. And what's critically important is all of that is available through one number. It's one operations centre, so there's absolute continuity during a case. The Bangkok civil unrest a few years ago was a great example of how the team responded really quickly and helped some clients who were in real danger rapidly. So we had 25 clients stuck in the international airport. There was a massive protest outside, grenades were going off, people were getting killed. We had our guys in Bangkok go into the international airport, pull our clients out through a rear door and put them safely in a hotel. The situation was getting worse, so we had a helicopter engaged and got all 25 out back to Australia within 24 hours. Job was done and we moved on, and the guys did a fantastic job, all because the approval process was just seamless, so we could respond really quickly. 2 days later, we got a call from two multinational companies that had an assistance capability and a promise to come to the rescue, but didn't have the capability in this scenario. They asked us to, we said sure, we could help. We had the helicopter and the team on standby, but it was delayed for another 72 hours because of all the bureaucracy that was involved to get the claim approved. So it seems ridiculous to say, but a claims approval process should never get in the way of helping someone in an emergency situation. With AHI, bureaucracy never gets in the way. They're in the same building as we are. All of the claims are approved in Australia, which means that we can respond as fast as possible. Our medical team is made up of nurses and specialists, so our doctors aren't GPs that haven't practiced for 20 years. They're still part-time in the hospital system. They're emergency medicine specialists and intensivists.
I'm Dr. John Field. I'm the Medical Director of Dynamiq Assist. I'm an intensive care specialist and retrieval medicine specialist, and I'm part of a team of doctors who coordinate and support Dynamiq Assist. My role is to try and bring Australian standard healthcare to travellers overseas through Dynamiq Assist and AHI Assist. As part of my assessment, I may personally speak with the patient, as well as speak with the treating doctor and the employer. And on the basis of that assessment, make a decision as to the best course of action.
Some companies believe that they need a third party to assist them with their emergency situations overseas, but when you've got an insurance policy with Accident and Health International, there's no need for that because Dynamiq are a part of the insurance policy.
In the Arab Spring revolutions, we had media crews from Australia and all over the world that we were escorting into those hot spots so they could cover the story at the same time as we were evacuating normal people out of the danger. And the local providers that we had on the ground and our guys on the ground were ex-Egyptian military, and one of the trickiest parts of that was getting people out to the airport. What normally takes 40 minutes was taking up to 4 hours because of legal and illegal checkpoints. But our guys were able to get out in the emergency services lane because of the contacts that we have over there.
We had another situation over in Christchurch with the Christchurch earthquake, and we had one of our business people was over there with his wife, and he was actually in the CBD when the earthquake occurred, and the wife was staying at the apartment at that stage, and she felt the earthquake. Didn't know what it was, turned the television on, and it was all over the television about what had happened, and there was news reporters there, and she identified that her husband was actually in the area where the earthquake did the most damage. So she immediately tried to ring him, only to find out that after dialing, there was a telephone ringing in another room, and in fact it was his mobile phone. So she didn't know what to do. She was panic-stricken because of the fact of her not knowing where her husband is, not knowing whether he's safe or not. So she rang up Dynamiq. Dynamiq got the call and said, leave it with me, or leave it with us. We're able to get one of our people to go and see if we can find him. So they contacted their people in Christchurch, who actually had the ability to go within the cordon because it was cordoned off. There was mayhem. It was a disaster, obviously. But because of his contacts, he was able to go in and find the husband. They rang back Dynamiq to say that he's found. Please contact the wife to say it's all good. But it turned out that there was quite a few injured people there, and whilst he didn't have any medical skills, he was just comforting. We organised, Dynamiq organised for our nurses to talk to the people who were injured and comfort them and tell them their injuries weren't as bad as what they perceived. It was a terrible situation, but Dynamiq were able to help people that weren't even clients, and another happy ending.
So it's critically important for our clients that we have a capability that can support them in any emergency event, whether that's at home or abroad, whether it's medical, security, or some sort of corporate event.
Travelling in the third world is, of course, has its dangers. The standard of healthcare in the third world, in remote Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, is nowhere near that of Australia. We try and bring first world Australian healthcare to those travellers to give them that peace of mind. And if we can't provide it where they are, and if we can't support them through it where they are, we bring them home for it, or we bring them to another first world centre nearby.
We have many situations where people are overseas and the expense of the medical bill, for example, is outside of what they can pay, and Dynamiq will pay that on their behalf. So we effectively have a cashless system. Dynamiq have hospitals and clinics all throughout the world where this cashless system is available.
The process is this. A call comes in to the EOC, it's taken by a nurse. We had one of a chap who got shot in an armed robbery in a remote part of West Africa. He was managed locally at the hospital. They stopped the bleeding, splintered his fracture. We mobilised an air ambulance that took him to Johannesburg in South Africa for definitive treatment. The whole process of mobilising an air ambulance after assessing his need to transfer took less than 2 hours. And he then finished his recuperation at a major teaching hospital in South Africa.
It's incredible some of the calls that come into this place on a daily basis. Really sort of emotive end of kidnap and ransoms and illegal detentions and extortion attempts. And it's amazing how often these things happen. It's just not reported in the media. Now that AHI are kidnap and ransom leaders in the Australian insurance market, and Dynamiq is the response firm responsible to assist clients at 2 o'clock in the morning in the event of a worst case scenario, we need to have true expertise available at a moment's notice. Dynamiq has kidnap and ransom experts in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth and Brisbane, and we help clients to not only respond to an event, but as part of the insurance policy to conduct pre-incident training for their executive teams so that if the worst happens, they're well prepared. But perhaps most importantly, we have Nigel Brennan as part of our team. Nigel was kidnapped in Somalia for over 460 days. And who better to assist Dynamiq in the event of an emergency, because he truly understands what the victims and the families are going through in these circumstances. Nigel is a true expert.
I guess I have probably the best real-life experience, especially when it comes to kidnap and ransom. I guess I experienced something that no one should ever have to experience in their life. During that time, I was isolated for 13 months, shackles around my ankles for 11 months, mentally tortured, forced to listen to my friend and colleague being physically tortured for a period of time. I was finally released after my family were forced to pay a ransom of over $650,000 US. I now actually work for Dynamiq as a senior consultant. If I had been a client of Dynamiq's, certainly you have all the back of house stuff, so I could have got country reports. There would have been accountability there, 100% accountability. People would have known where I was, what my movements were. Had I had a cover as well of a KNR policy in the background, then obviously all of those costs once I come out would have been covered. So all the psychology and all that sort of stuff. So that would have been a lot cheaper.
We insure the Australian cricket team. At a recent test series they had in India, there was a bomb blast in Hyderabad. Now, this happened 2 weeks before they were due to go there. So I was rung up to see whether it was safe for the Australian cricket team to go to Hyderabad. Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't have the experience there. So I got onto Anthony from Dynamiq.
This is our core business, obviously, so I got my Victorian team, touch base with the client, get a sense of what their plan was from a safety security point of view. And we had our intelligence analysts on the ground in India working on the threat scenario and the likelihood of that event happening again. We did some work to make sure that what was being put in place, the risk mitigation strategies, were appropriate, and they were. And so we felt very comfortable that they were doing the right thing.
In retrospect, I probably should have said, no, it's not safe to travel, because we lost that test by an innings.
We have to make sure that we're providing a 360-degree service offering to our clients. Our single reason for being is to make our clients' lives easier. We have got a great relationship with some of the world's biggest mining, energy, oil and gas and government clients, and they stick with us for the long term because what we do is client orientated, it's bespoke, there's no cookie cutter solutions at Dynamiq.
Last year alone, AHI and Dynamiq Assist helped over 7,000 people in 25 different countries. They were people like you, tourists, business travellers, shoppers, surfers, mums and dads. Everyone needs access to help and protection. AHI and Dynamiq Assist provide duty of care. Their business is your peace of mind.